going to share my testimony with you about how I left Islam to Christianity. Since I was 4, I'm going to share my testimony with you about how I left Islam to Christianity. Since I was 4, since I can remember, I started to learn how to pray. But not only pray 5 times a day, but the extra ones you can pray before the actual prayer. So I started to early on read the Quran. أنا فيني أحكي عربي وبقرأ عربي. And I learned the right manners to read the Quran. I attended all kind of mosques. I watched the imams and sheikh, and I was learning from the wisdom, and I was applying it in my life. Even more so the more I grew in my faith. I was considering more and more to wear hijab. Early in my teenage years, we started to immigrate from my home country, from Kurdistan to Europe. And during that immigration process, I've seen all kind of pain. When you, with a smuggler, not only you paying them to smuggle you from a place to another place, you give them your whole life. They can do whatever they want with you. You have all kind of stories about smugglers selling you organs, doing the unbelievable with the female body. You understand what I mean? So it's not a trip. It's literally your life on the line. Going with boats, crossing the ocean, all those stuff. I went through it. I've seen jail twice in my life. During that time, I've seen all kind of evil people. I've seen mafias. But through it all, I kept holding on to my deen, to my faith. And then we came here to Europe. And here, I thought I'm finally getting my peace. But then it went from this refugee camp to that refugee camp to this refugee camp to this refugee camp. It just kept going and going. I had lost what a sense of peace looks like, what a sense of home looked like, but still I was holding on to my deen. And at a given moment, while we were at one of those camps, my mother came to me and she said, "Shall we go to that church this Sunday?" And I looked at her, I was like, "إيش تقول الكافر دي?" I was like, "What are you telling me? Why you want me to go to a church?" Like, fine, we can go. So I went there, and when I went to church, we did not need to look in a specific direction. We did not take our shoes off, come in. There was a sense of peace that caught my attention, a sense of friendliness that caught my attention. And I was just curious about to see what this religion is about. I started to open the Bible to prove that it's wrong, that it's corrupt, that it's changed, that Jesus is just a prophet. So I started to study the Bible. But the more I studied the Bible, the more I got to know who Christ is, the more I got to know what the Judaism theology of sacrifices is, what the salvation actually means, who this Jesus is that is nowhere near mentioned in the Quran. The more evidence I came across, historical evidence, actual evidence, proof that is actually true and that is Jesus was here and got crucified, and 3 days later he got resurrected. While it's in Quran in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 157, it says that they will never kill him. They got someone who looked like him. He was never crucified. And I was someone who was reading Hadith a lot, and I was reading Quran a lot. Nowhere near is being talked about Jesus this way, in this manner. At some point, it got very difficult for me because the more I studied with Christianity, the more it spoke for itself, for it to be truth. I'm not sure if you've ever been to camps, but because of overload or refugees, they don't have much place. So me and my family were all put in one small room. I didn't have a sense of privacy. The only place that I could have a sense of privacy is in the shower. So one day I was in the shower and I got a complete breakdown. Because I said to God, I was like, "Allah, I don't know if I'm supposed to pray to Muhammad or I'm supposed to pray to Jesus. I don't know who am I supposed to follow, because it's fighting against each other. My deen in Islam, it wasn't just faith that I was practicing more than 5 times a day. No, it was my whole being. It was my whole, how I view life, how I view hardship. It's just not my religion, is who I am. It's everything to me. So I was like, now that part of me is shaking, and I'm not sure what am I supposed to do about it. So I went to God and I was like, "God, if this Jesus of yours is real, if he's who he is to claim to be, let him in my life. I just want to meet him. Just let him in my life. If he's actually who he is, let him come to my life." And then the next day, I woke up and nothing happened. This time, the only difference is I opened my Bible not to try to prove that it's wrong, but just to read it, just to give it a chance and read it. And that's why everything changed for me, because the more I got to read in the gospel and the more I got to read the good news, my perspective about life changed completely. I was able to forgive people who'd done the most horrific, inhuman stuff to us. I was able to move on. I became more honest. I had a sense of peace that nothing and nobody ever could even get me that. Not close.